The Milltown Cemetery attack took place on 16 March 1988 in Belfast's Milltown Cemetery, during the funeral of 3 Provisional IRA volunteers killed in Gibraltar. An Ulster Defence Association volunteer, Michael Stone, attacked the mourners with hand grenades and pistols. As Stone then ran towards the nearby motorway, a large crowd began chasing him and he continued shooting and throwing grenades. Some of them caught him and began beating him, but he was rescued by the police and arrested. 3 people had been killed and more than 60 wounded. The unprecedented one-man attack was filmed by television news crews and caused shock around the world. 3 days later, at the funeral of one of Stone's victims, 2 non-uniformed British soldiers drove into the funeral procession. Bystanders, who reportedly thought it was a replay of an attack like that carried out by Stone, dragged the soldiers from their car. The 2 corporals were later shot dead by the IRA. Background: on 6 March 1988, Provisional IRA members Daniel McCann, Sean Savage and Mairead Farrell were shot dead by the Special Air Service in Gibraltar. This caused outrage among Irish Republicans and their supporters as the 3 were unarmed and allegedly shot without warning. They were due to be buried in the Republican plot at Milltown Cemetery on 16 March. For years, Republicans had complained about heavy-handed policing of IRA funerals, which had led to violence. In a change from normal procedure, the British Army and Royal Ulster Constabulary decided they would pull back from the funerals of the Gibraltar 3, and keep watch from the sidelines. This followed negotiations with Catholic Church leaders. Michael Stone's self-professed mission was to take out the Sinn Féin and IRA leadership at the graveside. He told journalist Peter Taylor that his attack was retaliation for the IRA's Remembrance Day bombing 4 months earlier. Taylor wrote, "He said it was symbolic. The IRA had attacked a British cenotaph and he was taking revenge by attacking the IRA equivalent." Stone claimed a senior member of the UDA had given him the organization's official clearance for the attack and claimed he was given a Browning high-power 9mm pistol, a Ruger 357 Magnum revolver and 7 RGD-5 grenades the night before the funeral attack. The funeral service and requiem mass went ahead as planned, and the cortege made its way to Milltown Cemetery, off the Falls Road. Present were thousands of mourners and top members of the IRA and Sinn Féin, including Sinn Féin's Gerry Adams and Martin McGuinness. 2 RUC helicopters hovered overhead. Stone claimed that he entered the graveyard through the front gate with the mourners. Some eyewitnesses claimed to have seen Stone enter the graveyard from the M1 motorway with 3 other people. The others walked across the graveyard and later left on the Falls Road side. As the 3rd coffin was about to be lowered into the ground, Stone threw 2 grenades, which had a 7-second delay, toward the Republican plot and began shooting. The first grenade exploded near the crowd and about 20 yards from the grave. Amid the panic and confusion, people took cover behind gravestones. Stone began jogging toward the motorway, several hundred yards away, chased by dozens of men and youths. He continued shooting and throwing grenades at his pursuers. 3 people were killed while pursuing Stone. 2 Catholic civilians, Thomas McCurleen and John Murray, and a Provisional IRA volunteer, Keemhan McBrady. During the attack about 60 people were wounded by bullets, grenade shrapnel and fragments of marble and stone from gravestones. Among those wounded was a pregnant mother of 4, a 72-year-old grandmother and a 10-year-old boy. In the 19th of March edition of the Irish Times, columnist Kevin Myers, an opponent of Republican paramilitary violence, wrote, "Unarmed young men charged against the man hurling grenades and firing an automatic pistol. The young men stalking the quarry repeatedly came under fire. They were repeatedly bombed. They repeatedly advanced." Indeed, this was not simply bravery, this was a heroism which in other circumstances, I have no doubt, would have won the highest military decorations. A white van that had been parked by the motorway suddenly drove off as Stone fled from the angry crowd. The RUC said the van was part of an uninvolved police patrol. Stone later claimed that a getaway vehicle, driven by a UDA member, was waiting for him on the motorway, but the driver panicked and left. By the time Stone reached the motorway, he had seemingly run out of ammunition. He ran out onto the road and tried to stop cars, but was caught by the crowd and beaten unconscious. RUC officers quickly arrived, almost certainly saving his life. They arrested him and took him to Musgrave Park Hospital for treatment of his injuries. The whole event had been recorded by television news cameras. Aftermath. That evening, angry youths in Republican districts burned hijacked vehicles and attacked the RUC. Immediately after the attack, the two main loyalist paramilitary groups, the UDA and the Ulster Volunteer Force, denied responsibility. The leader of the UDA West Belfast Brigade, Tommy Little, said that Stone was a rogue loyalist acting without orders from the UDA, although he did not condemn the attack. Little told other UDA leaders to keep to this line. UDA member Sammy Duddy said, after Milltown, 2 UDA brigadiers from 2 Belfast battalions telephoned the IRA to say they didn't know Michael Stone, but Michael was UDA. He was a travelling gunman who went after the IRA and Republicans, and he needed no authority for that because that was his job. Those 2 brigadiers were scared in case the IRA would retaliate against them, so they disclaimed Michael, one of our best operators. Sinn Féin and others claimed that there must have been collusion with the security forces, because only a small number of people knew in advance of the reduced police presence at the funerals. Stone later claimed he had assurances that British soldiers and RUC officers would not be deployed in the graveyard. He also claimed to have had detailed information about British Army and RUC movements. Stone wrote that, the night before the attack, he was given his pick of weapons from an Ulster Resistance cache at a secret location outside Belfast, and was driven back into the city by a member of the RUC. According to journalist Martin Dillon, the weapons he used were given to him on the orders of UDA Intelligence Chief Brian Nelson, who was later revealed to be an undercover agent of the British Army's Force Research Unit. 3 days after the Milltown killings, one of Stone's victims, Keemhin MacBrady, was being buried when 2 plainclothes British Army corporals in an unmarked car drove into the path of the funeral cortege, apparently by mistake. Some of those present, believing the soldiers to be loyalist gunmen, surrounded and attacked their car. Corporal Wood drew his service pistol and fired a shot in the air. The 2 men were then dragged from the car before being taken away, beaten and shot dead by Republicans. The incident is often referred to as the Corporals' killings and, like the attack at Milltown, much of it was filmed by television news cameras. The Browning pistol Stone used was seized on the day of the attack and was eventually used by an IRA unit to ambush a combined RUC, British Army, patrol in Belfast on 13 October 1990. A constable was shot dead and another badly injured. Many hardline loyalists saw Stone as a hero and he became a loyalist icon. In March 1989, he was convicted for the 3 murders at Milltown, for 3 paramilitary murders before, and for other offences. He received sentences totaling 682 years, but was released after serving 13 years as a result of the Good Friday Agreement. Apart from time on remand spent in Crumlin Road Prison, Stone spent all of his sentence in HM Prison Maze. Stone later published an autobiography, None Shall Divide Us, which included an account of the attack, in which he wrote that he deeply regretted the hurt he had caused the families of those he killed, and paid tribute to the bravery of 2 of the men killed while pursuing him at the cemetery. Stone wrote, "I didn't choose killing as a career, killing chose me."